Another day, another story. 9 signs your relationship needs improvement. In this blog post, 9 signs your relationship needs improvement, I will give you the most common signs that work should be done on your relationship. It's not always easy to tell if your relationship is doing okay, but it is common to be blinded by love. Knowing these different signs will help you be prepared when they arise. 9 signs. 1. No sex or intimacy. A recent study published in the Journal of Psychological Science found that couples who had regular sex experienced a sexual afterglow for up to 48 hours following the act, and would report higher marital satisfaction up to 6 months later. Now, this doesn't mean that you should only have sex once every 6 months. You should try to make sex a priority in your relationship if you want to make it work in the long term. It's easy to let kids, work, and life get in the way of your sex life, but sex is meant to be an escape from these everyday problems. If you're noticing a downward trend in the quantity and quality of your sex, talk with your partner about it and make a plan. It can feel silly at first, but if you try to mix it up and try new things in the bedroom, you'll increase your sex drives, and when you work to satisfy them, your marriage will improve as a result. 2. Stop fighting. A lack of conflict is seen by many as a sign of a good marriage. In reality, it's a very bad sign for your future together. While intense, prolonged conflict is destructive to any relationship, a complete lack of conflict represents a problem on the other end of the spectrum. This is because conflict is an important part of any relationship. Because marriage is about 2 very different people coming together to form one whole, there is going to be friction and tension. Conflict is both the expression of this tension and, ultimately, the resolution of it. You can't fix your marriage problems without addressing them, and there's no marriage in the world without its fair share of problems. A general lack of conflict on its own is not necessarily a sign that your spouse wants a divorce. You need to look for indicators that your spouse is resigned and checked out of the marriage. So if constant fighting has turned to peace without any resolution, you may be in trouble. 3. Be more positive. This is the opposing point of view. If you or your spouse is constantly harping on you about your mistakes, your marriage is failing. Conflict, as previously stated, can be beneficial, but nagging is not. You are in big trouble if your spouse does not even try to hide their dislike for you, or if they appear to be constantly looking for negatives to shame you about. This indicates that there is a significant amount of resentment in your marriage, and nagging is simply a pressure valve to relieve that tension. Nagging can also be a sign of a serious negative personality in one or both of you, resulting in a schism in your relationship. 4. Some space. Separate beds are a sure sign of a troubled marriage, and with reason. For starters, the marriage bed represents the intimacy you share with your spouse. When you marry, you are choosing to share your life with another person. This entails living together, sharing finances, and sleeping in the same bed. Whatever your reason for rejecting this aspect of marriage, it is a rejection of marriage as a whole. Second, it implies a serious issue with intimacy that rarely exists in isolation. Whatever is keeping you away from your marriage bed is also keeping you from fully engaging in it, and when you're not engaging in your marriage, it's only a matter of time before it falls apart. Third, the decision to begin sleeping in separate beds indicates defeat. You've both decided that sleeping together is more trouble than it's worth. This decision may be made for practical reasons and appear to be a good idea at the time, but in retrospect, you'll see that it marks a turning point in your love story. In essence, by opting for separate beds, you are beginning to abandon your marriage. Of course, there are exceptions. Separate beds do not necessarily indicate that your marriage is in trouble if one or both of you have serious health problems or work drastically different schedules. The important thing is that you want to sleep in the same bed and try to sleep together whenever possible. 5. Make plans together. Marriage is about more than just the present moment, it is also about looking forward to the future. Even if everything appears to be fine on the surface, if you and your spouse have stopped making plans, you have a problem. There are several reasons why we might be in this situation. Sometimes we subconsciously recognize that our marriage is ending and avoid making plans too far in advance, assuming that it will be over before that time comes. In other cases, tension has become so severe that we are afraid to even discuss making plans with our spouse for fear of conflict, rejection, or even mockery. We avoid making plans in extreme cases. We simply do not want to spend time with our spouse because we know it will not be fun or exciting. However, in most cases, the primary issue is a lack of time and money. While this is the best case scenario, it will result in the same outcome. If you don't make time for your spouse, even if you both have good reasons, your marriage will fail. You need to make time together a priority and make plans to look forward to. It doesn't need to be a second honeymoon to Hawaii or a European vacation. It can be as simple as a walk around the block after work or buying tickets for the next big movie you both want to see. Whatever your plans, treat them with respect and significance. Even the most simple of activities can become the traditions that keep you together. 6. Teamwork. Teamwork is the dream work, they say. We accomplish difficult tasks when we are working as a cohesive until as opposed to working solo status. This is a subtle sign that your marriage is failing and you're on the verge of divorce. Take note of how you and your spouse talk about each other. Are you constantly making separate plans? Do you consider yourselves completely independent of one another? Have you stopped saying we and started saying me more frequently? While this change is subtle, it can easily creep in and destroy your marriage over time. If you find that you're drifting apart, try to reframe your language so that you're less focused on yourself and more focused on your life together as a couple. But don't stop there. Language is only half the battle. You need to make the effort to get more involved in each other's lives. You don't have to be inseparable, but you should get to know their friends and family, spend time together as a couple, and try new things. 7. Good vibes. Tension, I believe, is even more damaging to your relationship than conflict. The tension issue is that it interferes with the happiness and connection that marriage is all about. Resentment grows when your time together is dominated by what goes unsaid. This turns your time together into a negative rather than a positive factor in your relationship. Take action to address the issue if you or your spouse are holding something back and feel like you're walking on eggshells. It only takes one of you to break the ice and extend an olive branch. Determine what they are thinking or air your grievances. Make an effort to approach this conversation with love and affection so that anger and hurt feelings do not take over. Above all, remember that you're trying to save your marriage because this is the person you want to spend the rest of your life with. 8. Communicate. Although it is true that silence is golden, this is not always the case in marriage. If your spouse has become ice cold in your presence and rarely attempts to converse with you, this is a sign that your marriage is failing. This could mean several things, none of which are good. Perhaps your spouse is seriously considering divorce but is unsure how to bring it up. Perhaps they're giving you the silent treatment because of something you did, or perhaps they're just trying to fix what's wrong. In any case, if your partner has stopped speaking to you, it is a clear indication that your marriage is in serious trouble. Warmth should be used to break down their defenses and touch their heart. 9. A gut instinct. This is the most powerful and significant indicator of all. If you have a gut feeling that your marriage isn't working, you're probably right. It can manifest as a gnawing feeling in the pit of your stomach, a general sense of unease, or the sensation that you and your partner are drifting apart. Don't ignore your feelings, instead, address them. Relationship improvements. Be aware that if you are prone to anxiety and worry, you must learn when to listen to your gut and when to be skeptical of your first instinct. However, for the majority of people, your intuition is a clear indicator when something is wrong in your relationship, so pay attention. If you find yourself in this situation, there is nothing you can do to change it. Instead, assess your marriage and look to the other signs on this list to help you turn it around. The good news is that when this gut feeling goes away, you'll know your marriage is back on track.